My name is Kaden Mattinson, and I am the executive director of Many Minds Village, but also now author and motivational speaker.
Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so of course we've spoken before and talked a little bit about the organization, and so um, as kind of a side piece to that, in addition to that, we found that there was a lot of questions about how we needed to empower our youth, how we needed to fight for our youth through the mental health system, and some of the ways that everybody could work together to fight for their kids, and so we put together a framework, and we said, what are some real easy ways that we can advocate for youth, for that everybody can, and then not just youth, but then what can we say, what can we use to help adults understand the best ways that they can help their youth and themselves. And so we put it together in a four-step system, and kind of that we figured there was four real parts that needed to be together to make that happen. And so in doing that, created the Sing framework. And so that's support, inclusivity, nurturing, and growth. And with those four pieces, where everybody can advocate for their own mental health, and everybody can really empower themselves and their kids.
And let's take a step back. Can you tell me a little bit about your own personal journey?
Yeah, so before we got into the organization with my daughter, I have fought ADHD my whole life. And so that's nothing new for me. But also growing up, I battled for a lot of years. I battled anxiety and going through some personal struggles that I've gone through in relationships and with, going through a divorce with your own kids. You definitely learn the battle that is depression. And people think that depression it looks like somebody sitting on a porch and crying and doing all those things, and that's not always the case. I mean, depression can look like somebody working too much. Somebody with depression, it can look like being the class clown because they don't want you to know what's going on inside. And that was definitely my end of the spectrum. I was, I did my best to not show that outward appearance, but I was just not happy. I wasn't happy with anything I was doing. I mean, I was surrounded by friends. I was surrounded by family, and you would never guess that even though I appeared to be the happiest person out there, I was battling some pretty serious demons. And I really never, I teach people now to get into therapy and don't be afraid of talking, but it wasn't always that way for me. Especially when you're in that dark of a place, it's really, really easy to say, I don't need a therapist. I don't need treatment. I don't need somebody to tell me what's wrong with me because I know, I'm aware. But therapy is not always about that. Therapy, sitting down with a therapist can really walk you through what's going on, and there may not even be much said. People expect therapists to, kind of be like that TV therapy session. Somebody sitting on a couch and tell me about your problems. And honestly, you do most of the talking. They give you little clues along the way, and they give you treatment, a way to work on it. They give you coping skills throughout the course of therapy where it may be things that you didn't think about. but it's not that classic TV, you know, sitting on the recliner couch. But yeah, that battle, going through all of that, I didn't get into therapy until we started into therapy with my daughter, and then I realized just how kind of important that step was. And so, of course, at that point, that was, I mean, many, many years after the worst of my battles. And you start working kind of retroactively into that and learn a whole lot of stuff that I probably should have known back then.
So, as a author, what is it like getting all your thoughts and ideas out on the page?
It was kind of mind-boggling, actually, because I had a lot of ideas, and I talk to people all the time about different coping skills or different treatments that are available for people. Um, and I've had so many people tell me, you really should write a book about this because parents really need this information. And I'm like, I don't know if I have it in me. I don't know if I can, I don't know if I can write that many pages of a book. And finally I was like, you know what? We'll give it a shot. I mean, worst case scenario, I write a, informational paper, and it's something I can hand out to my clients. And once I started seeing the book come together, I was like, oh my gosh, okay, I can actually do this. And pretty soon 30 pages turns into 90 real quick.
What is it like public speaking?
That is one, it depends on how you are at handling people. If you are okay with the big crowds, you're definitely not talking to your kid's fourth grade class. You're talking to a room of sometimes 1,000, 1,500 people, and I used to look at public speaking as a conversation between you and the audience, and so that definitely has helped, because without that back and forth, if you're not keeping them entertained, you're going to lose that audience really fast, and it's going to show. They're not going to be as interested in what you have to say, and there's going to be a lot of chatter, but between people, and so you're not just talking to the audience. You are having that conversation, even if it's not words coming back at you.
What has the feedback been?
So far, the feedback's been really good. We, like I said, we put together the Sing framework and started talking on that and about the need to really focus on early intervention in juvenile mental health. And it's been really interesting. It's been a lot of fun listening to people that say, well, I'm glad that I'm here, but my sister or my brother or my cousin or my teenager needs to be here for this conversation. And there's been a lot of that. There's been a lot of I really need to take this back to my therapist. I think they could really use this.
Yeah, what is it like talking to other parents going through similar things?
That's what makes it easy. That's really what drives this conversation. That's really what drove the whole topic. Is I know that those parents, if they're just beginning their journey, are losing their minds. They are so unfocused on life because they're dealing with this trauma, and that's really what it is trauma of not knowing who to talk to, where to turn, what's going on with their child, why do they need this constant reassurance or constant correction. and trying to really figure out how to get help, let alone, how to handle their basic bills for the next 6 months. And so they get it. They are they the light bulb clicks, and they're like, oh my gosh, there's actually like something we can do about this. And so you see the look of chaos kind of become peaceful as the hour goes, and it makes it all worth it.
How does it feel for you to be following this mission?
This is it's almost like the last 5 years coming to a point. And so that is it's really exciting stuff. Really, really exciting. Now that we've gotten the first book done, we decided that I'm gonna do a second book, and I started writing it last night actually.
Oh, wow.
So I'm going to jump right into the next one, just because this one's going to take a bit more to put together. The last one took about 6 weeks to write and, get it all edited and everything and ready to go. This one's going to take a little bit longer. We're going to get some, good stories. We're going to get some families that want to share their story in this book and really kind of share what it looks like as a parent going through this mental health journey. And so this one's going to take a little while. I'm not expecting to release this one anytime soon.
What is your writing process like?
I see a lot of people that are like, if you do not sit down and write all your thoughts out on a paper and then, try to organize that and then format your book, you're not going to know what to do. And I'm like, no, I'm a little bit different in that my ADHD won't let me do that, because once it's out on that paper, that's going to be the end of it.
Yeah.
And so I get an idea in my head as I go about, I'm going to start out with how many chapters am I going to put in this, and what is each chapter going to entail. And then once that's done, I write the draft of that chapter. I get it all out on paper, all of my thoughts on that chapter, and then I'll go back through that chapter and I'll break it down and make sure that each paragraph, each line is where I want it to be, make sure it makes sense. And then I've got, either my wife or sister or somebody who I can put it in front of them and say, make sure that this makes sense. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just make sure that it's understandable. And I'll do that for each chapter. And then once it's done, then I'll send it off to an editor, or I'll send it off to, a proofreader or somebody that, this last book I had 3 amazing friends that are either, English, real smart English people, or I did send it off to one proofreader, and I was like, I'm not looking for editing skills. Just make sure it's formatted right. Make sure that it's, that it looks good.
Yeah.
And so once everybody came back, it was so funny, because with this one, as everybody's getting it back, every single person did the exact same thing. They sent it back with their, this looks great. It's edited, it's all edited. Everything's right. But once this is done, I need a copy of it because this book's amazing. Oh. And I was like, oh, that's exciting, actually. that tells me that this book, that I got it right. I got all the information in there that was necessary.
What motivates you?
I have kind of two answers to that. So, my biggest motivation is always the kids. Always my kids. Because I am determined, and my wife is the same way. We are determined that our kids will not know the stresses and the chaos that we grew up in. They will they will not understand that. But also, we know what we've been through, and we know what my daughter's going through with her mental illness. And we want to change all the treatment. We want to change everything about the mental health system for all of the kids just like her. And it's pretty powerful stuff when you take yourself out of that and you start looking at that side of it.
Yeah, with already starting on book two and then the public speaking, where do you want to see your mission in the next few years?
You know, we are already kind of getting there. It was, we had an exciting development this week where we've been asked to collaborate with a company and organization out of Rwanda.
Wow.
And so that connection would actually put us into Rwanda and Nigeria and possibly Zimbabwe. And, you know, we wanted to be international. I mean, I think that would be an amazing way to help out around the world with mental health. I didn't think it was going to be this fast. So we're trying to figure out, you know, how the legalities of that works, and, you know, make sure we don't cause an international incident trying to assist
Right.
with mental health. But no, that's a topic that needs to be heard around the world.
Yeah.
You know, mental health affects everybody. I don't care who you are.
Right. So how can people reach out to you?
So they can reach out to me on my website, which is kadenmattinson.com. You can also find me on all of my social medias. If you look up Kaden Speaks on Instagram, or you can find, I believe, on TikTok, it's Kaden Mattinson. Should be the same on Twitter as well. You can always go to my LinkedIn as well. LinkedIn is Kaden Mattinson as well. And, you know, then I always have good old phone. So if you want to reach me by phone, you can call 801-259-3312.